So I figured that I would do a CC Magic tutorial that is more kind of like a little class format. Kind of just go over a user guide before jumping into the actual like hands-on tutorial, because there's a lot of terminology. This is like for the beginners, or if you're not a beginner, this could be for you as well. I just want to lay down all the terms so that no one gets confused, because there's a lot of CC Magic tutorials out there, but sometimes you can get really confused because you don't know what all the words mean, or they don't explain everything in detail because they personally don't use that, or they think it's not relevant to you. I use most of the functionality out of CC Magic, maybe not the more like super advanced functions, but all the main features that most casual users would use out of this program, I personally do use. Now, what is CC Magic? It is this program right here. You would find it on modthesims.info. It is by this creator, Grant Hess. That is his username, and it was last updated a pretty long time ago, but it still works. There are some features that don't work anymore, but not majorly. They're very few and far between. Most of it has to do with the links to his website that no longer work. When you go to download it, you'll want to download this setup here. It is an external program. You don't install this into your game. It is its own program, but it's safe. It has been downloaded 200,000 times on Mod The Sims, and Mod The Sims carefully vets everything that is uploaded to the website. So rest assured, this is safe. It's not a virus or anything like that. It's just a little program made by a simmer for simmers to manage your custom content better. And this is also going to help you with game performance, but I'll go over that in a moment. So I have this user manual here, but I've done some annotations to it. I'm gonna exit out of here, just kind of bring you over here. So now we're on my desktop, but I have this viewer so you can see my screen, my tablet. I've done some annotations. First, on the bottom down here, I wanted to go over these definitions for maybe beginners that don't understand these terminology. So I'm gonna get my little laser thing. First, we're gonna just start out with the gist of this. So custom content, or CC, and then game mods. Like, what is the difference? Like, mods and CC, people throw those terms out a lot. What do they all mean? Custom content, or CC, is mainly hair, objects, makeup, clothes, shoes, and non-default skins, but it's also consisting of lots, patterns, sims, households, recolors or retextures, and custom worlds. That would all be considered custom content. These things I have these separated because these are typically things on the bottom in this gray square. Things that you would want to keep out of CC Magic, because they're not like tangible things. Lots are typically multiple packages, and patterns, you can install these with CC Magic, but if you don't know where they came from, if they were created with the Create a Pattern tool, that those can throw errors when they're installed through CC Magic. So if they were TSR workshop patterns, they're fine, but the EA Create a Pattern tool, patterns created through that can cause problems through CC Magic. So you can keep those separate. If you install patterns a lot, I would recommend installing those through the launcher. Sims as well, install these through the launcher. Households, recolors can be done in CC Magic if you want, but it would be easier to keep them with your patterns, in my opinion. And custom worlds, yeah, you have to install those through the launcher as well, just to keep things properly working. I mean, I'm sure that you could, but I wouldn't recommend. Worlds, no, but like lots, it's a possibility. I would not recommend it. It would probably make things a little messy. So just do them through the launcher, because with these things, they don't work as intended usually. This stuff is all perfectly safe, and this is the stuff that you usually have in bulk. You have a lot of this stuff. Lots of hair, lots of objects, makeup, clothes, shoes, maybe not so many skins, but that kind of stuff that you just kind of go on a download spree and you have all these files everywhere. This is the kind of stuff that you want to use CC Magic for, that bulk stuff that just takes up space. These files can come in the Sim package and Sims 3 pack format, either or. So objects, hair, makeup, clothes, shoes, and skins, well, yeah, all that can come in package as well. Sims 3 packs are Sims 3 packs are typically hair, objects, clothes, shoes, makeup, lots, patterns, recolors, households, custom worlds, and Sims. The only thing here on this list that usually is not a Sims 3 pack is a non-default skin. Those are typically always packages, but these things, most of the time, these things can alternate. These things are typically always Sims 3 packs. These things can be both, except for this. This is always a package. You can install both Sims 3 pack and package files through CC Magic. And this is going to be really convenient because you're going to do it all in the same place. Except for mods. You can install your mods into CC Magic, and there's a special place for them so that they don't get caught up in the merging process, because you don't want to merge mods. We'll talk about that. But there's different types of mods. I'm not going to go into specific about what the difference between these are, but these are your typical types of mods. You got your core mods, which are like big ones. You can usually only have one in your game. Tuning mods, which change little things that are already there, like how fast your Sims walk, or whether they run or walk, whatever, or how much something costs, something like that. Script mod is a new script, so someone wrote programming into the game to make something different. New, different, or removing something, kind of like a tuning mod, but better with, it's more work, because there's something new there. And object mods are script mods that are attached to an object, typically. I guess you could say that tuning mods can also be object mods, whatever, is same difference, but essentially sometimes object mods will give you a new object, either a completely new object, like the sewing machine on Mod The Sims, or an edited clone of an object with a different function or something like that. You also have body sliders, kind of like a skin, but this is different in my opinion, so it's kind of more like a mod because it adds an additional slider in Create a Sim. And lighting mods, which will give you different lighting effects in game, like burnt waffles is a popular option for that. And also classify, I didn't write this down, but animations and poses are also considered mods, and they're also package files. And you have default replacements here on the bottom. These can default replacements are typically something that replaces something that was already there. So like the rubber duck, if you don't like the rubber duck that Sims use in the bathtub, there's a default replacement duck out there that makes it look better, and it just replaces that existing one. It just changes it into the new one. Typically, you can install those in the packages folder, but if they're not working, then you need to put them in the overrides. That's what the overrides is for. It's a higher priority folder. I won't go into what that means, but if a default replacement or mod isn't working, then you want to put it in there to give it priority so that it'll work. It might be that there's another mod in packages not letting it work. Yeah, I'm not including graphics mods like reshade or anything, because those are different. Those are more like you have to change the graphics setting, like the actual game files for that stuff. So this is not to do with that. And mods are usually solely package files. Going up to the top, CC Magic merges your custom content for you, and the primary function of it is to support viewing, annotating, filtering, sorting, and enabling and disabling large quantities of Sims 3 custom content. So if you hoard a lot of CC, then this is for you. If you have a lot, especially Sims 3 pack, or package, doesn't matter. And this will allow you to combine your individual mods into fewer large package files for better game performance. So that's merging. Merging can be done manually through a program called S3PE. That will take you a long time. This will do it for you, and while there is a learning curve to this program, once you get this down, it is very simple and very intuitive. CC Magic is going to give you a hierarchical view, I cannot say that word, of your content. So I did a little graphic here. It's laid out like you have your set and then a child and then the child of that set. So you can make, like a general set on the top, like living room, and then, dining area, chair. Like, you can have, like, parents and children of the same one, with collapsible arrows and all that stuff. So you have, like, utmost organization. In CC Magic, these definitions are a little weird. So in CC Magic, the hierarchy of CC Magic is you have your configuration, which is a group of sets that you've selected to be loaded together into the game. So a profile, or like a setting. So you have all of these sets, but then you also have the configuration. So you can have a medieval or sci-fi configuration if you like to play with different play styles, different content styles. A set is below that, one of these, or one of these, and that is a group of custom content that is going to be combined into a single package by CC Magic. So a set is any amount of files that you put in here. So in this one, for example, if it's the chairs, like I said, then you would put, chairs in there. And then here you might just put tables or just general dining stuff. And then here you could leave this empty and just leave it there for organization purposes, or you can actually put things in there. It's up to you. And the mods, or that's what they call, everything is a mod to CC Magic, but your individual items are inside the sets, and your sets are inside the configuration. And I have this little thing here, so I would recommend not using Sim and World in CC Magic and sticking with these two formats for putting stuff into CC Magic. Limitations of it, this is a little inaccurate because this is an old guide, so I made some modifications to it. It says as of build 2635, CC Magic doesn't handle world files, and that's true, it does not handle world files. You still have to install worlds to the launcher. There are issues with create a pattern. I mentioned that before. You would honestly be better installing these in the launcher. And, Sims households and lots can be installed, but they can't be enabled and disabled like other CC. So they can be deleted from CC Magic, but it's not going to remove them from the game. So it's best to install them through the launcher, so if you want to remove them, it's easier to remove them than trying to figure out why they're not leaving CC Magic. You could still remove them, but it would be more of a pain than to just put them in the launcher in the beginning, because you can install things through the launcher pretty simply. It might be slower, but at least you won't have to go searching for the specific file in your folders outside of CC Magic. That would be a pain. And up here, I mentioned this later, but on patch 1.69 for Origin users, the game launch feature does not work. At this time, that wasn't a problem because that patch didn't exist yet when this guide was made. But as of that patch, if you play on Origin at all, you're on 1.69, unless you haven't connected to the internet in like 5 or 6 years. But yeah, you're on that patch, and the play feature won't work. But you can still play the game. It's just you won't be able to launch the game using CC Magic. So, the basic operations of CC Magic, including importing mods from the Sims 3 downloads folder, which is automatic on startup, and files identified as mods are de-archived, checked for integrity, and stored by type into CC Magic's folder structure. When the user requests a rebuild, a manual or automatic. See, if your play button works, it'll automatically rebuild it for you. But only if you're playing on a really old, like maybe the disc versions probably. I don't know about Steam, but like if you're on Origin, the play isn't gonna work. But if it does, it'll automatically rebuild for you when you click play. But when you rebuild, what happens when you rebuild. Normally, whenever you move anything into CC Magic, it's gonna say rebuild required. You don't have to do that right away. You can wait until you're done moving things and then rebuild. But what happens when you rebuild is that the enabled mods in each set that the player modified are combined into mod build, and then there will be a number. So in each set, that'll be 1, 2, 3, whatever. And then there will be folder structures made for you automatically in your files, like outside of CC Magic. It's gonna do that for you, and it's gonna make everything work. That's why it's like called CC Magic. It just kind of does it all for you. This is my little guide on how to install. Like, they don't really clarify this, but I didn't really know this when I first started using this, but over time I realized this, and this makes everything so much easier. So you want to place all custom content, but I have a little asterisk up here. That means things that would be good to put in CC Magic. So this stuff, at least the bulk of that, your bulk of content, at least for me, my bulk of content is my casts and my objects for decorating purposes and build stuff. But the path that you want to place all that stuff is documents, electronic arts, Sims 3 downloads. This is normally where you put your Sims 3 pack CC to install to the launcher. So if you bought like store content, that's normally where you'd put that. Here you're just gonna put everything in there. Not just your Sims 3 packs, but your packages as well. And be careful here. I didn't write this down, but I would like to mention that if you have anything that can't go into CC Magic, like lots, worlds, Sims, households, whatever, patterns that were made in Create a Pattern, if they're inside the downloads folder at the time you open CC Magic, they're going to get imported too. I would recommend always checking your downloads before you open CC Magic to make sure that nothing that isn't good to put in CC Magic is in there at the time that you open it, because it'll be automatically imported. So when you're going to do a launcher install, for like if you're installing a custom world, a lot, a household, or a pet, or a pattern or something like that, I would do that separately. Like, put all that stuff in the downloads folder, open your launcher, install it, close the launcher, and then put anything you're going to install into CC Magic, all that stuff, your packages and your Sims 3 packs that are CC, not mods, put that stuff into your downloads and it'll import that into CC Magic. Keep your stuff separate and it'll work so much better. because then you won't have to go and like find in a CC Magic's folder hierarchy and then remove it and then put it in the launcher. Best to keep them separate before you accidentally put them together. And for mods, you'll want to put them in Documents, Electronic Arts, The Sims 3, Mods, Packages, just like you normally would with mods. If you normally install mods, I don't really think I need to like go over the mods framework. It's very simple. Like literally, the mods framework is to just essentially, you have this location. Once you're inside the Sims 3's folder, you want to make a folder named mods, and then make one inside of mods named packages, and then you can make another one inside of mods as well named overrides, but you won't really use that one that much. And then you'll have to go on the internet and find a file called resource.cfg. It's on Mod The Sims, I believe, and you put that inside the mods, and then when you install mods, they go into this location inside packages, and it should be working. Now CC Magic, I'm pretty sure sets this up for you, if I'm not mistaken. When you first launch CC Magic, it should build this framework for you. So you shouldn't need to do this if you're going to begin using CC Magic and you don't have this. It should build it for you. But if not, there are tutorials on how to set it up. It literally, it should not take more than like 2 minutes really to set up. It's just making some folders, and you gotta get a quick file off the internet and drag it in there. And that's really all there is to it. If default replacements aren't working, then yeah, move them to the overrides folder. I mentioned that before, but mods are installed the same way as normal. They will import to CC Magic, so you can organize them within that. And that's where we go into the legacy support. So CC Magic also manages legacy mods, or package format mods, which will not be combined, and which remain in EA's mods packages folder. The interface for managing these mods is analogous to that for standard mods, but the way that they're handled is different. So it's very similar, it's just the way that they're handled is going to be a little different. So, like I said up here, or down here, they won't be merged. CC Magic will scan for it, just like they do downloads. It will create a set for your mods and packages called Legacy in each subfolder that you make. And it will create a database record for every mod and assign it to a set corresponding to the folder that it's in. Renaming a legacy set will immediately rename the folder that it's in, and they cannot be moved. The sets cannot be moved themselves. Default sets, which we'll go over, those can be moved, but legacy cannot. A legacy mod can be deleted or disabled. A legacy mod can be individually added to a default set. They cannot be turned into default sets through CC Magic. And if you want to do this, this is right here. You can pause and read that. The legacy set can be enabled or disabled as a whole in the configuration tab, but subsets cannot be individually enabled or disabled. So if you have legacy, the legacy tab will always show up there, and you can, turn this one on or off. But if you have, children set, of legacy, children of that one, and set, like that. If you have children to the parent of legacy, I hate using that, but that's the best way to explain it. These cannot be individually enabled or disabled. The entire thing can, but the individual ones cannot. This is just for mods, but for custom content, they can be individually enabled or disabled. I'll show you that. You can also not have associated collections. So this is why I say on the other page to put all of your custom content into the downloads folder, because these are going to be imported into the default configuration, or the default set, where you can make collections. And if you download objects, collections are for objects only. If you download a lot of objects for decorating purposes, and they come in package format, if you put them in the mods folder like you normally would in packages, then you're not going to be able to sort them into collections, so you can't access them easy in game. So importing them in here is the best way to do it, because then they can be sorted into collections with Sims 3 pack stuff. And it works perfectly fine, and it's very convenient. Oh, whoops. Oh my goodness, I opened up Apple Music. I am not good at this. So, legacy files will not be merged like default files. This is good because you don't want to merge your mods. You don't want to merge mods. I mean, nothing catastrophic will normally really happen, probably. It's just when something goes wrong, you don't want to have your mods merged, because if anything goes wrong, which it could very well, things go wrong all the time in this game, having merged mods would make everything so much more difficult, because you wouldn't be able to test what was wrong, because everything is all in one big thing. So this is why CC Magic has a separate configuration for mods, so that they don't get merged into mod build packages. They load in individually as themselves, as they normally would. This is just a way to sort them. It's really just for sorting purposes, and so that you can organize them like your other content, just without merging them, basically. So this has a lot of annotation on it, and I'm really sorry. It's really messy. Normally I would probably do a better job, but I'm going to do my best at showing you these buttons. Seems like it would be easier to do it this way. So I'll start up here at the top. I'm going to get to this little dot thing. I'm over here in the top left corner. The play button, as you can see, it does not work on the 1.69 patch, so this will literally do nothing if you play on Origin. On older patches and older configurations, it might work for you, but on Origin, it won't work, unfortunately. You're gonna have to load up the game launcher. Right here you have sets, which is the main tab, the default page that you'll load up when you open CC Magic, and it's going to show you your set hierarchy as it shows here in this little window. I'll show you down here that you have the add and remove. So if you see right here that Morph Head Modern is selected, it's highlighted in blue. If you were to click add right now, it would create a subset below Morph Head Modern and not Pet Safe. To make another set under Pet Safe like all of these, you would need to click on Pet Safe and make sure that it was highlighted in blue, so that you could add a collection under that. But if you were trying to make children sets underneath one of these, then you would add another set. And if you wanted to remove one that you accidentally made, you would just make sure that it was highlighted. Make sure you highlight the right one, and it'll remove the set for you. This right here I just circled because this is the item type. They usually are color coded. Now, typically package and Sims 3 pack objects. So Sims 3 packs are, when you have objects, sometimes they'll just say Sims 3 pack instead of object, whereas package files, you see these are package files, they will actually say object. So they might have differing types and colors, but not to worry, it's just because they're different file types and they read a little different. These are just some color coding for better organization, for you have visual. So these are green. And you can see that, like I said, Morph Head Modern, that's the name. You can change the name in here. There's a description box. You can write a note about the set. I typically write in here, like, this is for X, Y, and Z. You can delete this later, whatever, future self. You can also write notes about individual objects. So you see that you have the object name, like the name of the file. You have the description that was loaded from the file itself. You can give it a rating, so like how good it is and how priority you want it to show up in your list when you're looking for CC. You can give it a category if you want, and you can write notes about the object, like this is my favorite fireplace. You can enable it or disable it individually, so you can enable and disable individual objects and packages. And you can also add in the URL, so if you need to link this later, like I need to know where this came from so I can give credit, you can put it in this little box and have it there. So when you go and like make a compilation of CC that you use on like a lot, you can have all these URLs saved in your CC Magic, and you can come and get them. And it also shows you the date and time that you added it into CC Magic, so you know when this came from. This is obviously like almost 10 years ago. Well, it's about 9 because it's very beginning of 2021. But yeah, that's a long time ago. It's a whole other era. But yeah, it'll show you the time that you added it so that you know when that came from. Like, was this the thing I downloaded last week? And you can see your active configuration on the bottom. This person has pets incremental, so this looks like from the time that they did this and from the name of it, this looks like Pets was a huge update where a lot of things stopped working, so you had to CC creators had to update all of their CC to work with pets. So this is likely a configuration that the user was using so that they could incrementally add their CC back in and test it to make sure that it was working and not crashing their game. So yeah, all kinds of uses for these configuration types. Up here you have your collection assignment. So when you make your collections, we'll talk about how to do that, but when you're done making your collections, this is where you'll go on your set to assign this set to a collection, an object collection. So it'll show up in build and buy mode. These buttons up here do not work. They go to websites that don't work anymore. Maybe you can load them on the Wayback Machine, but it's tricky at best. The status will show you the time until your rebuild is done. A little status bar. It'll automatically load up when you rebuild. The rebuild button is actually it's basically your save button. It basically redoes all your files for you once you've made your changes in CC Magic, and it makes those changes stick for you. So that way when you load the game, everything that you did and input it is going to be the way that you did it. It's basically a save, if you want to call it that. I didn't circle this, but refresh is just for if you're in CC Magic and you go on Google and you download something, like while you're doing your CC, like, I forgot I need like another chair to go with this couch. You can import it into your files and then refresh this, and it'll import it while the program is open. So you don't need to close it and reopen it when you add new CC if it's open already. And this should clear your cache. If it doesn't, you might need to manually do it. It should do it for you if you want it. If you want to do it that way, just to clean things up a little bit. Options, settings menu, there's some really advanced settings. Most people won't use that. You can, there's some advanced settings in there if you want to use them. Most people won't. The configuration is where you have your CC game modes and your profiles, and to enable and disable stuff. So like pets incremental, this is where you'd go and select, and create your different configurations and change which ones, and enable and disable things. And collections is where you go and make your collections for build and buy mode, add your icons and all that stuff, give them names. And yeah, I think that is every one of the little buttons on the interface. This is just some writing showing you what all these mean. This, like I said, won't work. So this is what the sets look like. This is a hierarchical listing of the sets that you define. You start with 2 special sets, default and legacy, which are here, little thing here, and here. And you can add additional sets as subsets of one or the other of those. These 2 sets will always be root sets, not subsets. So default and legacy are always your root 2 ones. Most of your stuff is going to fall into the default. Only things that are going to go down here are your mods. That's why they have their NRAS and legacy. So you can keep all your NRAS together. But majority of everything that you put in here is going to go in your sets, or your default sets. Default set is mods which you've newly added to the downloads folder since the last time that you ran CC Magic or did a refresh will initially appear in here. You can leave them here or sort them into other sets. So whenever you import anything, they're going to go in here, and you're going to have to move them out and put them into sets, like drag and drop, all that kind of stuff. So you'll have to make some sets to begin if you want to start sorting. I would, personally, what I did is I just kind of started with my default. Before I did anything, I created some subsets to get started and sorted things into general categories, like, like they have here, like buy, create a sim, stuff like that. And then once everything is in those broken up bits, then start narrowing it down and getting more specific. A legacy set the legacy set contains mods from the packages folder, and if you had packages in your game when you started using CC Magic, you will see them in here. They can be left alone or moved into other sets. So they'll all go in here, all your mods, and if you want to move them, you can't. So this person has their NRAS in its own little folder, or its own little area, its own little set to keep it all together so that they can easily find them when they need them. And yeah, this is a great place to keep your mods because they won't be combined. Set operations. To expand or collapse a set, you just click the arrow by the name of it. To add a new one, you click it and click the add. Then you can change the name and optionally add a description or add a collection in the collection pane. To delete it, you want to select it and click remove. The mods that were the items that were in that set will then move back to default the next time that you start CC Magic. So you're not deleting the items when you remove a set, it's just removing the set itself. To move a set, you just drag it and drop it to where you want it to go. So if you wanted, for example, Armiel, if you didn't want this in build, you could drag and drop it under patterns or lots or world or mixed build by sets, whatever. You could just drag and drop it where you want it to go. And to rename it, you can use these text boxes if you want to change the name or the description at any time you want. Like, this can be a working title, a working description, whatever you want. This is showing what the CC list looks like. Every mod panel will contain information. You have the type, shows what kind of CC it is. So this says close. Package files say pattern, object, close, XML tuning, etc. If there's a thumbnail available, it will be displayed here. The name and description will be extracted from the file and be displayed here. And you'll have your date and time. I already went over that. The user info, the category drop down is, all this stuff is just for filtering. So if you want extra keywords to search by, because you can search, it doesn't show the search, but you can search your sets. So if you're looking for a particular object, it should come up with the name. Any of the text inside of the file itself is a keyword for finding it, as well as the type. You can type in object into a set and it'll show you all the objects or the clothes in that set. But if you want to add any additional keywords, then you can add that in the notes and that will become an additional keyword. Like you could write like build 1, and then when you type in build 1, it would come up when you search for it, so that you know, like, oh, this stuff was specific to a particular sim that I made or a particular house that I made. The URL, like I said, it's just for if you need to update your mods or if you want to upload things and credit people, or show people where to find it. You can have that, so you have a reference of that URL. And it's also good for in case that URL goes down. A lot of CC tends to disappear because this is an old game. So if things, go away, then you can maybe use that URL in the Wayback Machine to find it later on if you need it again. And you can enable and disable them. Unchecking it will prevent the mod from being loaded into the game when you play. And that's really simple as it is. This is just more about filtering and how to move things. I'm not going to read this word for word. You can pause and read it if you want. But essentially, I wrote this little tip here. If you want to move multiple items, you're going to need to hold down the control key and click each item to highlight it in blue. There will be a little blue around it showing that it's highlighted. And you'll want to continue holding down control as you click each item, and once you're done selecting things and you want to move them to drag it into a set, you need to hold down the control and the left mouse button as you drag it, and don't let go until it's over the set name, and then you can let go and then it'll move it. If you let go of one of those keys, like control, if you let go of control, then it'll only move one item. So you want to make sure you hold down control the whole time. Oh, and it also mentions here, but to select everything in a set to move it out, you would do Control A, and you would also want to hold that the whole time. Here's the collection tab. One of my favorite parts of CC Magic is the ability to make your collections outside of the game. So the collections tab will show you, you have this interface. It's going to show you the ones you already have in your game. They might not load the same way, but they might work fine. You can make new ones. It's what I do. I make a collection for every single build buy set I have. Not everyone. Like, I try to keep it, if it's very small, then I'll mix them together. Like, I'll have a bigger one. So if it's a bunch of little miscellaneous decor, I have like, a couple of general themed ones. But if it's like a bedroom set or like a living room set, I make a collection for it so that all those things from that particular set, that room, is all together, so it's really easy to put together in game. So the typical way to do this is just click the add button. Now, I usually, when I'm doing my CC, I have something to write with, or I have a notepad window open so I can type these things down. But as I'm making my new sets, I make note of the things that are going to need a collection. So I'll be like, okay, Paris bedroom, New York living room, whatever. So that way when I go to make my collections, I have a list of how many I'm going to need, and then I count. So if I need 5 collections for these new sets that I just downloaded, you want to click the add button 5 times. Now, don't do this too fast. You do not want to spam it, as I wrote down here. You want to click, wait a second, click, wait a second, click, wait a second, and do that very slowly, because if you spam this 5 times, it's not gonna it can't create them fast enough, and so it's gonna show that you made 5 collections in here, but it didn't really. So you need to do it slowly for that to work. New collections will automatically have this icon, this like lazy couch. So you'll find them typically on the bottom. And when you're making your collections, do not refresh CC Magic until you're done, because if you do, then your new collections that you made are all going to get mixed up in here. They won't be at the bottom, they'll be all mixed up. So don't refresh until you're done with your collection making, at least. They'll usually be on the bottom, the new ones that you just made at the bottom of the list. And then I typically just go through, I rename them, like, scratch them off my list of each set. Okay, I made a collection for Paris bedroom, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then I go through and I find an appropriate icon for each one. I typically have, I pick an icon for grouping. So bedroom, there's a bed icon. Every bedroom gets the same icon, a bed. You can do it the way you want it. It could be very specific. But for me, the way I like to sort them in game, there's even further sorting in game, I sort them by their icons as well. So every bedroom has a bed. Every living room has like a living room kind of thing. Every kitchen has like a counter representing it. So that's typically how I sort mine. And once you're done making your collection, it'll usually say when you're first making it, if this was a new set, it would say 0 items in it. You'd have your name and your icon, and then once you're done making all of your collections, go back to the set tab and then rebuild real quick, and then go through your sets that you made, and should be on here. There will be a drop down menu, and they should be at the bottom of that list, and you just kind of go through, find your sets that you made and that need to have a collection, and attach it to the collection. And then when you're done with that, rebuild again. I usually rebuild after every collection assignment. It takes half a second, but I usually do that every time. In the configuration tab, this is where you group sets into configurations. The purpose of this is to allow you to load different sets of CC with different games. For instance, you might want a sci-fi configuration and a medieval one, or a special one for a legacy game that won't allow you to use cheats or mods, or a configuration with only hacks and no CC for building lots to share. So any kind of thing that you need a different CC configuration for, without having separate game folders for that, this is what you want to use this for. And this is also useful for adding mods to your game incrementally after a patch or getting an expansion pack. Not much of an issue anymore now that the game is a complete game. However, if you need to troubleshoot anything, this is a great way to do it. First step, easy way to do it, without deleting things and going through that issue, that whole process. So here you can, create your configurations, name them, whatever. And then to add one, you just click add and name it. And that's all you really need to do. And you can give it a description, whatever you want. If you want to remove it, you just remove it. It's not going to remove the CC or anything. It's just removing that profile for you. Now, this is where you edit each configuration. So this is where you specify what sets are part of that configuration. So by default, things are going to be disabled. So every time you add new sets, you're going to need to go here and enable them for each configuration. They should be on the disabled side, and you would just need to select them and then move them over. These little single arrow buttons are for moving individual sets over. These will move everything over. So if you have a configuration all nice and good to go, don't accidentally click this, because then you'll move everything and it'll mess it up and you have to do it over again. I mean, it's not going to mess anything up too bad, but if you don't remember what was in what, then it could be a pain to just have to figure out, oh, what did I put, what was enabled, what wasn't enabled. And if you have so many sets like I do, that would be a nightmare. When you have a lot to deal with, and you don't remember what was enabled and what wasn't. So stick to the single arrows, and try not to click the double arrows, because it'll move everything. And yeah, basically whatever you want to do. If you're playing, like I said, a specific kind of game and you need something out of your game, then you would just highlight it, select it, and then move it over into your disabled. So this says available, I'm pretty sure in my version of CC Magic, I could be wrong, this is disabled sets. So these sets over here are currently not loading, and these sets are. So this person, when they start their game, the stuff on the left will show up, the stuff on the right will not. And there's more information down here about that. I wrote that little note down there. The options tab, most casual users can ignore this. You can pause and read it. It's just, if you want to launch your game through a frame limiter, if you don't have a not GeForce experience, but NVIDIA control panel, if you don't have that, or, if you need to use a different game launcher or something, if you want to test things out, you can do this. If it works, depending on what patch you're playing on. You can do this to keep your stuff from I just brain farted. This just basically makes your package files take up less space, but it's going to make rebuild much slower. And this is just, honestly, most people will not use this. This is just very... It's if you're really deep in mods and you need extra support for that. It's really not important. The status, like I said, this will become automatically active if you click play or rebuild, if play works for you, but when you click rebuild, it's going to show that for you, and it'll give you some info about your build and your operating system, and the log will just show the current progress of the rebuild. It just gives you a status bar. We're going to practice in a moment, but first I want to show you why should I use this. A lot of people say, well, I merge my CC on my own, or I already have it organized, I just use the launcher, it's easy. There's quite a few reasons why I was skeptical about CC Magic too, but the big reason is performance for me. All of these reasons are... Bless you. All of these reasons are the reasons why I use it. For one, organization and convenience. Very easy to find problems. Very easy. If I accidentally download Sims 4 or Sims 2 CC, very easy to find it. Very easy. If I didn't have CC Magic, it would be a pain trying to find that file, because the files are usually in zip files where the dates on them are old. So it's not like I can sort by date on that. So this is a lifesaver in itself. It merges package files for you for better game performance. Individual files will take much longer to load compared to fewer large files. Loading times will see an improvement, and just general game less lag and stuttering. Collections made easier, and building and decorating is better if you like building and decorating with a lot of custom content. This is also very, very helpful. Being able to put together downloaded sets like off of TSR in just a few minutes, instead of just having to go through and find individual items in the misc decor, the couch, the lamp, the coffee table section. You don't have to do that. It's all in one little collection, and you can make collections in game but you still have to go through that process of finding everything, and it can take hours to do that for just one, like, just to put a couple together. And this is very fast, very easy, and you can do it as soon as you install the content. You don't have to go in game and waste time in game. I have many collections. This is one of the primary reasons I use it. And cutting down on RAM usage, and that goes into create a world power users. So if you like to create worlds and create a world and you use a lot of CC, this is almost essential for you, because launcher installed CC for some reason is much heavier on the RAM. Sims 3 can only use 4 gigabytes of RAM. Originally it was 2 gigabytes, but if you have a patch that was released in 2011, which most people should by now, it came around the time Late Night came out, then the game was automatically made large address aware. So on systems where it's possible, it can use the full 4 gigabytes that a 32-bit program can use. What that just means is, it's the maximum amount of RAM or memory that the game can use. Even if you've got more, so even if your computer has 8 gigabytes of RAM, or 16, or whatever, it's not going to make much of a difference at all. It just makes your computer more stable, and it allows you to use the maximum, but you can't make the game use more than 4 gigabytes because it's a 32-bit program, and to make it use more RAM, it would have to be readdressed as a 64-bit program, which actually takes quite a while. It took EA a year or so to do it for Mac users, because Mac or Apple dropped support for 32-bit programs on Mac OS. So it's not something you can fix. There's little pseudo fixes like out there, like on Tumblr, that say, oh, if you go and edit this any file and change the numbers to half of what you've got, then it'll let you use more RAM. It doesn't actually fix anything. It doesn't actually really do anything. The most it will use is 4 gigabytes. And the problem when you install content is it's going to cut into your RAM usage. RAM usage is important. It is the most problems with this game stem from the RAM, or RAM is interchangeable with the word memory. It's not storage, it's random access memory. This game has memory leaks, and it's not what it sounds like. You would think that means it's dropping RAM. It's actually holding on to it when it doesn't need it. So it'll take it up and then not drop it. Even though it's not really using it, it just holds on to it. So the game thinks it's at a higher usage than it is when it's not. And it's a huge thing with this game, huge problem. And with that limit, it can cause so many crashes. This is why Sims 3 is known for being a crashing game, because of the uncontrolled RAM. There's many ways to mitigate this. Many ways. Even when you heavily use CC. CC Magic is one of them. One of the main ways to cut down on that RAM usage. It is the best option you have, especially if you use a lot of custom content, or any custom content for that matter. This would help you, because installing the launcher is much worse. Edit in game and create a world. The late stage of create a world where you're editing your world in game will not work if you have even 2 gigabytes or so of launcher installed content into your DC cache. So if you install all your content in the launcher, that might not even work for you. It might just crash. Your game might still work, but editing game will not. So if you want your game to work better generally and have less crashes, this is much better. So now I'm going to show you in CC Magic how to basically do this, what I've shown you so far. Now that we have it all open, obviously this is the latest build that there is, so it looks a little nicer than the pictures that I showed you. But I have this little system here just to show you. So right here I have a mod. This is the no intro. It removes the intro video when you launch the game. It's one of the most basic mods out there. It's from 2009. It's actually the one that they use on the tutorial on The Sims. They say used to. And these here are all objects. These are arcade machines. They're package file objects. And this is a dining room chair in Sims 3 pack format. And I already have these in CC Magic because mine takes a while to load. But I just wanted to show you generally like these three things, how you would put them in here. I already told you, but I want to show you. So for this mod, this no intro package mod, you would want to find your documents, electronic arts, go in here, The Sims 3, and your mods, and then packages, and then you just put it in here, anywhere in here, inside of there. That's where you'd put that mod. And then all of these, this entire bit, these are package objects. This is a Sims 3 pack object. You would want to take these and move them into electronic arts, or you could just cut and paste them. Sims 3 electronic arts, back in here to the downloads, and then just put them in here. And then when you open CC Magic, they'll be in your default tab. That's how you install that stuff. And create a Sim stuff, you do the same thing. So in CC Magic, now that I already have these in here, for you, if you were doing this, I'm actually going to undo this moves way and add it again. You would open up CC Magic and it would import them for you. Mine's already imported because during the loading, when it opens up, it loads them in. I have so much CC that it takes a while for mine to load in, so I have it open already. But if I were to search in my legacy, which is right here, I have some sorting bits here that I haven't really messed with. But I haven't messed with it since I opened it. So if I search in here, no intro, I find this mod here. Sometimes things say unknown because it can't tell what the file is. That could be a sign that it's a Sims 2 or a Sims 4 package, or it could just be that it doesn't know what it is. It's not always bad. If it's a Sims 4 package, you just remove it, no big deal. But if it's unknown, it could just be that it doesn't know what type of mod it is. In this case, it doesn't know, which is fine. If you wanted to move this, you could. If I wanted to put this in mods and stuff, I could just drag it over there, move it in there, and it's now in that folder in mods. So yeah, it's really pretty straightforward. And for your default, if I move over here, I have quite a few things in default right now that has not been sorted. See, it's I may need to rebuild right now, because I made a change. But if I go into my default, this is all my unsorted stuff that just hasn't been moved, that I haven't really messed with. It's a bunch of random crap. You can sort this if there's any. Oh, this is gonna take a second. The first time you search on any set, if you have a lot of stuff, it takes a moment to load. Mine is very slow because of all the content I have. I have a lot, like 40 gigabytes, so yours won't be like mine. Mine is broken. Just waiting for it to stop not responding. So now that it's not threatening to crash on me, I don't have any clothes in here, but when I typed in yellow, it found a pattern named cloudy. If I search maybe Caspart, that's a pet. Let's see, Sims 3 pack. This will bring up any Sims 3 pack if it's in the type or if it's in the name. Yeah, generally like that, and this is my hierarchy of my sorting. So I have my Sims 3 pack objects and my packages objects sorted differently. Now I've kind of become more liberal about how I sort these. I don't always put them in where they're supposed to go. Like, honestly, I kind of stopped caring. So not all of these are, not everything in Sims 3 pack objects is a Sims 3 pack anymore. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't really care. I tried to be very strict on it, but I gave up on that. But I have these subsets with all kinds of subsets. So all my Around the Sims 3 stuff is all sorted together, and they all have their individual collections. So, ATS 3 bed sets has its own little collection over here. You can see all the little items in here all go together. If I go to a specific set, like bedroom sets, obviously I don't have anything in here in these parents. These are just for the sorting purposes. But in the children's sets, I have like this Waro bedroom. See, everything in here is for that one particular bedroom set. And it has its own collection up here. I can write a little description, like for later or whatever if I want. You can write the URL from where that item came from. You can enable or disable it, whatever you want. I will show you collections now, just as a little quick reference. So when you make a collection, like I said, you want to do it really slowly, like click add, wait a moment, click add again, like if you're making multiples, that is. Just to be safe that it's actually making the collections. And then you want to click on it, and then you can go over here and name it test, whatever, give it an icon, and then that collection is made. You can name this one test 2, give this one a speech bubble icon, and then you can either rebuild or not rebuild. Sometimes you need to. You either switch over to a different set, and yeah, so you don't always need to rebuild it. If it's not showing up, then rebuild. But typically the easiest way to get the newly created collections to show up is to just switch over to a different set real quick, and then it'll pop up. But see, I have this bedroom set is assigned to Alex's bedroom. But if I wanted to put it as chest right here, I could just click it. All you need to do. But then when you did that, it would show up here. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to lose my spot, because then I have to search through all these. But if I switched it down to test or test 2, it would show the little rebuild symbol. And I recommend that when you're assigning your sets to your collection, that you rebuild each time you do that. The first rebuild, this is why I'm not going to rebuild in this video, because it takes a while the first time you do it. When you open CC Magic, the first one is always the longest. It could take 10 minutes if you have a lot. Every subsequent rebuild after that is not going to take long at all, like half a second if that. So really fast, you just assign it, it'll say rebuild, click rebuild, it'll do it. You just go back to what you're doing, continue, rebuild each time. It's just saving it. It's all it's doing. Takes half a second really quickly. So I showed you that. If I wanted to, remove these, just click remove. All you need to do. Configurations. So I have 2 in my game. I actually have my testing config as my actual config, because most of what I've been doing is kind of testing, not really, just kind of building, so I just kind of left it on this. But if I wanted to switch it back over to default, you just do that and it would switch it back over. You see how I have different, like, there's a lot more disabled on default than there is on enabled, or than on testing, my bad. That will vary depending on what you pick. So if I wanted, this to be disabled, I would just highlight it and then put it over there. Pretty sure that you can, if you hold down Control, you can select multiple to move over at a time. So if you just need to move like 5 different ones over, you could highlight them all, click that, and it would move them all over. And yeah, just rebuild before you go into your game, and then anything over here will not show up. So these things are not presently showing up in my game when I load my game up, and these things are. And yeah, you can add different configurations if you want different profiles. Like if you want a profile where all of your build stuff doesn't show up, you can do that. Whatever you want for your personal play styles. As I said before, this stuff really irrelevant, doesn't really make much of a difference most of the time. And this is the status, which will automatically load up when you rebuild. It'll show you the status and any errors, if any, in the log. And yeah, it shows you your build, what CC Magic build you're on, and your Windows build, whatever. This won't work since I have Origin. If you, like I said, if you ever need to find specific objects, like I have my clocks all sorted, like it's very convenient for finding everything that specific, very convenient. Very convenient. I don't really sort my clothes all that much. I don't know where they're down here. Yeah, it's all in one folder. I really need to clean this up, to be honest. It's a little messy. I have a lot. I have probably about 400 to 500 collections for all my different object sets for decorating. But very worth it. This definitely took me, this setup here, as you see it now, is the initial build of this setup, this hierarchy and moving things, but it's also over time, after I had that initial setup. The initial setup with all the content I had already, which is probably about 30 gigabytes, maybe 35, worth of custom content, took me about like 2 or 3 6 to 7 hour days of just on and off sorting. It depends on how much you have and how fast and how long you can concentrate on it to initially set your files up, and how much do you want to sort them. Do you want to sort them as much as I do? Really up to you, and how you want to do your collections, if you do collections. But that honestly is really it. There's not much more to it. It looks daunting, but it's really not that scary. Really simple. I can, like right here, I can add me a new set right here, give it a name, test 1, and I can click that and add a set below it. Test 2, I can click on that one, add a set below it, and then if you want to put those up so that it looks all neat, you can do that. You have multiple different layers here. That's really how it works. It's really simple. Just to move objects in here, you would just let me find something. About this right here. Just drag it over. And if you want to move multiple, hold down Control, keep Control held in and the left mouse button, drag it over, let go, all done. And then they should be in there all together. And if you want to do them all, move them back, Control A, hold Control and A down, left mouse, drag them back up. There you go, they're all moved now. If you want to get rid of these sets, just remove, 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 and then you're all done. And like I said, it looks daunting, and since I've done things it wants me to rebuild. I'm not going to do that on video because it'll take a long time. That's what this little symbol over here means. Make sure you, if this is present, that you do it before closing the program. Unless you don't want your changes to stay, then don't rebuild. But yeah, that's basically it, and I hope that this was helpful. I probably long, but I wanted to make sure that I covered it in a way that was easy to understand, because it can be very confusing. This program definitely looked daunting to me when I first tried to use it, and the videos, like, they don't always cover everything in an easy manner, so it's really all you need to do. I hope this was helpful for you.